Hello guys, welcome to Redditor's Revenge. Here we post amazing revenge stories daily. And if you want more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned with us. Moving to today's first story, about OP's real parents who abandoned OP and his brother when they were kids. But years later, they returned and attempted to reclaim custody of both from their adoptive parents using cult and black magic. Now story. My twin brother and I 16M were in the foster care system ever since we were 4 years old. For reasons that both of us wondered for years about, our parents put us up for adoption when we're 4 and they disappeared off the face of the earth. We were young back then, so we didn't know what was happening, but we remember the sudden loneliness and emptiness we felt when we stopped seeing them every day. From what we remember, our parents were nice and treated us very well, and we were both very polite, so we had no idea why we were suddenly in a foster home. Anyway, we spent years jumping from family to family who decided that having twin boys was too much. We kept going back to that foster home which, to say the least, was not very well for both of our mental health. Our childhood was that of struggle and long nights of crying ourselves to sleep, even if we did have each other, because that's all that we had. Fast forward to 4 years ago, we got adopted by this wonderful family. It took some time for us to fit in and be comfortable with them, but they made us feel so welcome and appreciated. All of a sudden, we were going out for dinner every weekend, going on vacations, getting presents, and living the life we had always wished for. It seemed too good to be true, and they made us completely forget about our birth parents. One day, however, we were coming home from school. We entered the house and saw our adoptive parents sitting down with an older-looking couple. The look on our adoptive parents' faces was not welcoming, and their guests had this very strange look and even stranger clothes. They looked like they had been pulled straight from the 1960s. Our parents signaled us to go upstairs, as they looked worried. We went up, but we were dying to know what was happening. As any kid would, we started eavesdropping from the top of the stairs. We couldn't make out exactly what they were talking about, but they kept mentioning something that happened 11 years ago, a court, and all of a sudden, our adoptive mom got up, raised her voice, and kicked them out. We had never seen our mom like that before, so we were worried and scared, but the guests were very calm. They exited as our dad kept apologizing to them and they said that they would come again. As soon as we heard the door shut, we rushed back into our room, but we got busted. Our parents got up and told us never to eavesdrop again and that it was none of our business. We kept asking who those people were, but they kept refusing to tell us and told us that it was personal. I wasn't content with the answer, but that's all we got. Over the next few days, things were back to normal at home and school, but something was up with Mom. She seemed more stressed and forgetful than usual, and she would often come up to our room to give us a hug before bed, which she hadn't done since we were 12. We were getting kind of worried, and the next day at school got us even more worried. The next day, we finished school and were about to walk home when the same 2 people who were at our house the other day were waiting for us outside. They just stood there without a car and introduced themselves. They told us they were our parents' distant relatives who lived in another city and had just come back. They seemed nice enough, but something was off about them. Without invitation, they just walked with us and we felt too embarrassed to tell them to go away. They kept asking us about our lives, home, school, and told us that they knew we were adopted and asked us about the whole experience. At times, it felt more like an investigation than a friendly chat, but we told them that we were happy with our adoptive parents and that everything was perfect. They told us that they had kids of their own, but that they lost them 11 years ago. Right as we were about to reach our home, they stopped, excused themselves, gave us their number, told us to call them if we ever need anything, and turned back. We tried to invite them in, but they were adamant not to. When we told our parents about what happened, they got furious and wanted to call the cops. We were confused and told them that they said they were their cousins, but our parents told us that they weren't and that they were lying. When we asked them who they were, they just told us that they were creeps and scammers and that we should never talk to them. We didn't like being kept in the dark, as Mom and Dad were hiding something from us, and we intended to find out what. We hadn't told our parents that the couple gave us their number, so my brother and I agreed to call them and try to find out more. Later that night, when Mom and Dad were asleep, we called them. We could barely hear them from strange noises in the background, like hums and some kind of poetry, but they told us to meet them the next day after school at a cafe, and that they would explain everything to us. We felt kind of scared, but we had to find out what was happening. The next day, just to be safe, we told some friends of ours to call our parents and tell them where we were going if we stayed there for more than 2 hours, and headed off to meet the strange couple. Right after school, we made our way to the cafe. My brother was more excited than me since I was very cautious about what might happen. I didn't know whether or not to trust them, so I told him not to reveal any important information. As soon as we walked in, we saw them sitting down and they had already ordered some food. It was fine at first, as they kept talking about food and their preferences. Then, I asked them what was going on. They looked at each other, nodded, and then told us what I did not want to hear. They told us that they were our biological parents. All of a sudden, years of memories rushed over me and my brother, and we just looked at each other with our jaws on the floor. We had a million questions, but they wouldn't give us the chance to ask. Immediately, they told us that they had to put us up for adoption because they were in danger. They told us that they were involved in some bad stuff with alcohol and drugs, and that people were threatening them. They had to put us up for adoption for our safety, as they had some dangerous drug addicts and dealers who drove them out of the entire city. They told us that after they had to leave, they fixed their life up and decided to make things better. They spent years trying to make the best life they could, and they told us about this self-help group that helped them get their stuff together. They went on about this group and how it was life-changing and that they're always accepting new members. I was very skeptical, but my brother seemed enthralled and kept asking them for details, and he seemed genuinely interested in the whole thing. I kept nudging his elbow now and then, but he wouldn't budge. It was like he was under their spell. After some time, we asked them what they wanted now. They told us that they were not expecting us to go back to being their children and living with them, but that they just wanted to get to know us better and spend some time with us now and then. It was a nice gesture, but I just found something very off-putting about them, from the way they dressed to the way they talked, to little OCD things like constantly putting the spoon in a specific place. Everything was just very disturbing. I wanted to tell them off, but my brother told them that he'd be happy to spend some time every weekend. They told us not to tell our adoptive parents about this, which seemed even more suspicious, but I understood. We got home that day and I had a deep discussion with my brother. He told me that it was fantastic that they were still alive and that they wanted to spend some time with us, but I told him that I found them unsettling, which he didn't understand at all. We didn't want to tell our adoptive parents about this, but I thought I'd wait a little bit and see what would happen. Over the next 2 weeks, we would meet our real parents on Friday after school, and they would tell us some stories about the time they spent away from us. Each time I got more and more suspicious, but my brother got more and more interested. At our last meeting, they told us again about the self-help group and how we should come to the sessions sometimes, and how it would change our lives. I didn't want to, but my brother seemed immediately interested and told them that he'd give them a call. I had a big argument with my brother about this, but then he told me how he felt. For years, he felt like something was missing from his life and it affected him deeply. He told me that even with our adoptive parents, he still lacked this thing that made him feel whole, and he hopes that our real parents and that self-help group can help him. I didn't want to seem insensitive, as he may have experienced things differently from me, so I agreed that he goes to only one of those sessions, but that he would have to tell me everything that happened. He agreed and attended a session the following week. When he came back, I asked him what he did and he told me that it was just basic therapy circles where the people talk about the problems they faced in life, and the organizers there just gave advice, and that it was a very wholesome and mentally relaxing experience. It seemed innocent enough and I considered going, but someone had to stay back home for our adoptive parents. Our real parents stopped coming to the house for a while, and my brother spent around a month attending these sessions. He seemed to get closer to our real parents than me, as I wasn't interested enough. One day, however, I caught him doing some weird stuff in the backyard at 2 in the morning. I saw him digging, and then he got in. When I asked him what he was doing, he told me that he found a dead cat by our driveway and that he wanted to bury it. I was suspicious, as we had never seen a stray cat around our neighborhood. Things got weirder and weirder after that. Often, I would catch him listening to very strange foreign music coming from his headphones, or reading up on ancient civilizations and rituals. One time, he was out very late, so I went looking for him. I cycled around the whole town until I finally found him with a group of strangers by the lake, putting something inside and singing. I got close and asked him what they were doing. As soon as he saw me, he panicked and told me that they were his friends and just messing around and throwing stuff in the lake. Something was very weird. Even his clothes were beginning to look more and more like our real parents. When we got home, I asked him what he was doing in these self-help sessions, and he gave me the same answer. I told him that I didn't believe him and that if he didn't tell me exactly what was going on, I would tell our adoptive parents and handle the consequences of the whole thing. He suddenly threw a fit and stormed out of the house in the middle of the night. I kept calling him, but he wouldn't answer, so I woke our adoptive parents up to find him and told them everything. They were furious, but they told me that they had to find him first before punishing us. After almost a full day of searching, our door rang and it was him and our real parents. Their demeanor was shifted 100% and they told us that my brother would be staying with them now. Our adoptive parents kept refusing and yelling, but my brother said that he liked staying with our real parents more. Our real parents told us that they filed a case where they are trying to regain custody of both of us, trying to prove the one condition of the papers that put us up for adoption as being fraudulent. We kept arguing, but they told us that they had very powerful friends who were going to see that my brother and I are back in their care. I kept trying to reason with my brother, but he was too far gone. After they left, I explained to our adoptive parents how he had been attending these self-help sessions with our real parents and they freaked out. They told me that self-help groups are often just a front for cults, and everything suddenly made perfect sense. From the weird music to the lake to the rituals to the clothes, it was like my brother was being brainwashed. I told them that the only way we could expose them is if I tried to attend one of these sessions and see what happens there. My adoptive parents were reluctant, but they agreed. I contacted my real parents and they were stupid enough to believe me when I said I was interested in the sessions. I went to the location they sent me and it was in some old warehouse. The session was very creepy, with music and weird paintings everywhere. My real parents took center stage and welcomed everyone, dropping a bomb on us that we had other brothers and sisters from different cities and that many of them were attending. It turned out that this weird cult believed in making huge families, and for years their strategy was to have kids, put them up for adoption, and then take them back when they were a little older to induct them into the cult. I saw some people cutting themselves, and others making strange prayers. I was very disturbed, and then my real parents came up to me and told me that this was my real family here, and that I'd never see my adoptive parents again. I was terrified, and even more terrified when they talked for so long about human sacrifice, and we suddenly saw one of the guys there, who looked no older than me, grab some pills and he was about to swallow them all. They kept talking about cleansing through sacrifice, but the kid was going to kill himself. I couldn't take it anymore, so I did what I had planned from the start and dialed my adoptive parents from my smartwatch, as they took away my phone when I entered. All of a sudden, the police stormed the warehouse and started arresting all the adults there. I had agreed with my adoptive parents that they call the police just in case, and if I was in any danger, I would call them. Some of the kids there ran, and some stayed behind just as scared as I was. My real parents were taken to the police station, and my brother was confused and didn't know what to do. We went back home. My adoptive parents spent 2 hours yelling at him and scolding him for what he did. And then over the next few days we got updates from the police that our parents were involved in several crimes, including cult induction, kidnapping, and theft. They dug deeper into the whole cult thing, and it turned out to be something like a satanic cult that has been around for a few years. Some of the kids who stayed behind were taken into foster care, and I hoped that the brainwashing that happened to them would be erased. The thought of having a bunch of other brothers and sisters out there who were born to fit some kind of psychosystem made me sick to my stomach, and after some time, my brother went back to normal and told me that he just wanted to feel like he belonged. Of course, the whole court case about regaining custody was dropped. I was beyond grateful for our adoptive parents though, and I realized that just because someone is your blood, doesn't mean that they are your real family. Now, here is the end of our today's video, and I hope you guys are enjoying my daily content. Guys, let me know what's your opinion about this story and OP's real parents. You can also share if you had any cult story in the comments section. I would love to read them. So before leaving, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories.